So, hey everyone, going to wait until 4:15, so it's like 7 minutes. Anyway, I hope you all had a great weekend. Um, it was very nice here, pretty cold, but still doable. Um, okay, let me check. So, okay. Copy and paste a question here. Okay, so I will do that at the end. All right, so anyway, let's get started. So, today I'm going to talk about what it takes to run your business. Okay, now the way I see it, there are three main factors involved: time, money, and knowledge or experience. Okay, um, now let's start with some statistics to bring these three factors into a context. Okay, so the average business without personnel in the USA generates about $50,000 a year in revenue. Now, when a business does have people in their employ, they generate about 5 million a year. Now, this 5 million is based on a median company, so it's not the average, but like straight to the middle. Okay, and that company, that median company, has 20 employees. And the funny thing is, I found is that if you take the example of like the average company without personnel and the average company with personnel, um, if I multiply the revenue that that single person basically makes by 20, by 20 people, you end up with $1 million and not 5. Now the reason for that is, and that's just my insight or belief, is that when you have a company with 20 people, these 20 people, they perform a specific task for 8 hours a day or more, right? So, and with that company where only one guy is doing everything, that person has to spread out has to spread out basically all the tasks over the day, and has to do it by him or herself. Okay, so there's not so much a focus on a single thing. Okay, there's no focus on support or sales or marketing. Okay, and with this average company, with these fictional 20 people personnel, each of those 20 people are going to be doing a specific thing, whether it's sales or sitting at the reception desk or legal or accounting, but they do that specific job for 8 or more hours a day. So now if you're on your own, you can obviously you can outsource certain tasks. Okay, Like, for instance, accounting. That's not something you need to do yourself, right? You can just have some external agency do your tax returns every quarter or every month or every year, depending on your income streams, on the level of income you have. Um, However, there will always be, in some form or another, three main functions, three pillars that each company has to more or less do themselves. Okay, um, and these three pillars are sales, marketing, and support. Okay. Now some say you can outsource marketing, but you know, first of all, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Second of all, if you don't do the marketing yourself or not someone within your company, you have very little control over the targeting and how they do stuff, okay, and how they present your company. Um, so generally speaking, you have to basically do sales, marketing, and support, no matter how big or small your company is. And this is where these three main factors I mentioned earlier, time, money, and expertise, come into play and determine your success or lack thereof. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, do you have the time to do at least these three main functions each day? Okay, so do you have the time each day to spend on sales, marketing, and support? Okay, do you have the money to scale? That's the second one. So is your cash flow positive or is your cash flow negative? If your cash flow is negative, you basically can't scale. If it stays the same, so if you never grow, then you can also not scale. So you can only scale on a positive cash flow. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, do you actually have the knowledge or expertise to run, build, and scale your business? And that's something many people don't have, in my opinion. And that's when it comes to Amazon. That's really the main problem I see with people who sell on Amazon or starting out selling on Amazon. For instance, they fail to realize that with arbitrage, they need to invest their money back into inventory, and not for a week, not for a month, but for 2 or maybe even 3 years. Okay, and that's if you want to survive on the platform as an arbitrage seller. Because with 100 items, you're just not big enough. You don't have the market presence to be in a position of power where you can compete with anyone. You're actually very vulnerable. Okay, so and even if you manage to do well now with your 100 items or 200 or maybe even 400 items, it's my belief that 3 to 5 years from now, you'll probably have to pack it in. Okay, you're not going to be able to compete because the market is maturing. And what I mean by that is that when a market matures, first of all, the processes that people use get more sophisticated, right? So you need to keep up on a technical level and on a knowledge level, but also certain big sellers tend to eat up certain market niches, if you know what I mean. So let's say sport and outdoors, there is like yoga mats or something. Then at some point it will be difficult or maybe even impossible for you to compete or sell your stuff in yoga mats, right? And to some degree that also applies to private label. But when you do your own branding, you can at least influence the results a bit more. So with arbitrage, it's really of vital importance that you scale. Now, as you know, last week I sent out a mailing that if you sign up for our year leads or our yearly plan, you can actually get access to ungating services where you can get 10 ungatings for $150 a piece. Okay, that's a great deal, and if you're serious about arbitrage, it's a no-brainer, right? Now, if you're on Amazon and you're going to do private label, things are going to be a lot more complex, because whereas arbitrage is relatively straightforward in the sense you buy something, you sell something, you don't have to do any marketing if you pick the right products. You don't have to build something, you don't have to build the brand. You basically, if you do arbitrage, you lift off the success of somebody else's work, more or less. Okay. Private label, on the other hand, requires you to invest a lot more time, effort, and money. Okay. And it requires you to have the time and have the knowledge and have the money. Okay, it's not an option. I'm not kidding when I say that if you're serious about building a private label product, it's basically a full-time job next to your day job, right? And that's just like the base requirement for you to even have a chance at this working for you. Now, you also need to understand, if you do private label, the Amazon ecosystem, right? From being able to run reports, have the people skills to not only deal with customers but also with Amazon when they're not doing what you want. Playing like a bit of diplomacy and getting things done, right? Because it's not going to be easy. Okay. The next thing you need to know is digital marketing in the broader sense of the word. So you need to understand SEO, SEA, Facebook ads, Instagram, text, Google ads, like the search ads, YouTube ads. You need to understand like the broad spectrum of digital marketing. That includes email marketing, and it's building websites. It's going to, you need to have the knowledge. You might not have to do all of it yourself, but you need to be able to communicate with third parties at a high enough level to make sure that if you hire a third party, that they do the job properly, right? You need to see what they're doing. You need to understand if someone built your website, for instance, you need to understand that they need to build that SEO backbone, okay? Because a nice website without proper SEO, it's nothing. You basically have something pretty that will never attract any visitors, okay? The third thing I would say you need to have or understand is business. You need to understand business, and you need to have experience in business. And whether that's having your own business or working at the business, and with working at the business, I don't mean any disrespect, but I don't mean being a blue collar worker where you set up some scaffolding or do some bricklaying. I have nothing against those jobs. I've done them myself in the past. But with broad business experience, I mean, you need to understand what makes a business tick. You need to have some knowledge on how a business works on an administration level, on a legal level, on an accounting level, the costs, the revenue, the profits. You need to have this understanding of business, okay? And last but not least, you need to understand your market. Now, what do I mean by that? You need to understand the people you sell to, where your products sit in compared to other products as well as your competitors. Basically, the market. That is the market, in my opinion. Okay, it's like a gathering word of a lot of things, like audience, competitors, also trend lines. Now, what I mean by trend lines is basically any product has a certain life cycle, okay? Um, and it has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end, okay? Like a bit like a great story, more or less. It has a story arc, a 3-point story arc, and um, you need to understand where your type of product sits within that life cycle. Is it at the beginning? So if it's at the beginning, you need to invest a lot in marketing to push it on. If it's in the middle, which often means that it's a matured market with big brands, but you don't need to invest in marketing to have people understand what your product is. Or is it at the end and everyone is pulling out while you're going in? Um, and obviously, if you're at the end stage of that of the product life cycle, then in my opinion, it doesn't really make sense to get into that product, maybe even that entire market. You can research this by um, doing research based on Google Trends or articles, which is also a great thing. Like, when is the last article written on that specific subject? If it's like an article in 2006 and there's no article about your product or market since then, you can safely assume that it's either a dead market or it's at its last legs, right? So again, understand your market. Now, assuming that money isn't your big problem or isn't a big problem, I found that most people who start selling on Amazon really truly lack the knowledge and experience, and maybe more important than that, they don't have the time. They can't spend the time that is needed to build a business, and it's really important that you're able to work on your business every day, okay? Because your competitor can be a company which has 5 people working for them. Now that's 5 times 8, that's 40 hours a day. That someone is working against you. That's how you need to see it, okay? And they're working for 40 hours a day, so 5 people are working 8 hours on specific tasks. So that's sales, definitely marketing, maybe research, support, also most definitely, and maybe business development or something like that, okay? But they're working that specific task for 8 hours a day. So if you think that you can launch a private label product or launch your own brand or build your business by just winging it for a couple of hours a day while watching Netflix on one screen and having software do your research for you, meanwhile, it doesn't. You're in for a rude awakening if you really think that that's going to work. Incidentally, this is also why I do have a course for arbitrage, but I don't have a course for private label. Because a course for private label or knowledge, in that sense, isn't enough. And incidentally, that's also why we offer the passive income coaching and the brand builder program. Because then you have actually someone, our team, working for you while you go about your day. We're basically that 5-person team that worked for your business during the day, okay? While other people are trying to wing it on their own and possibly not making it. Now, again, the big takeaway, what you should take away from this, is that you need to understand your relative position within your chosen market niche, and you need to have realistic expectations about what you can accomplish within the given time frame that you want to accomplish them. So if you give yourself a year, don't think you're going to be Coca-Cola. Okay, Coca-Cola spends more money on their marketing than some countries have for their entire, GDP, right? So uh, you need to understand this. You need to have a realistic set of expectations in that way, right? So if you have 500 bucks uh, in a year, you won't get far. And um, you need to prepare yourself for the long run. Then, okay. Now, at any rate, this is what I wanted to talk about, and I think this will help you understand more fully what you're up against. Okay, because nowadays it's not like 5 or 6 years ago, where you can just go on Jungle Scout, Viral Launch, or what's the other one? Helium 10. And again, I have nothing against the software, but it's just not enough to click on a button and have the software do the work for you, and you can just go to your day job and come home late at night and pick a product and go to Alibaba and send it to a warehouse and have it sell automatically. Okay, that's personally, I never thought that ever worked, but it will definitely not work anymore today. Okay, so you really need to be realistic that the companies you're up against, they have at least 3 people working for them, and that's basically 3 times 8. That's 24 hours a day. So you can't spend only 2 hours a day. Okay, so if you're into private label, you need to understand this. With arbitrage, it's more open. If you're serious, obviously you work as much hours as you can, but even if you work only 1 hour a day on arbitrage, you can still steadily grow that business. Okay, so I hope this helped, and I have some questions, so I'm going to answer them. So I'm going to read them up for you first. Question from Simon. I've heard that I need about $4,000 to launch a private label product. Is this accurate? So first of all, thanks for the question. Now you can launch a private label product for 4K. The problem is, however, that it's likely not going to work out in the mid to long run. Okay, you might have a good week, but 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks from then, it's not going to work out. This is either because your budget forces you to pick a product at the bottom of the market, basically cheap products, so you have a lot of hijackers, a lot of low ballers, a lot of competition basically, and it drives the price down, which basically drives your profit down. The budget also, if you're not in the low bracket, a low budget, which is 4K, is a low budget if you're launching a brand. It also can mean that you have product higher in like the market, but you cannot buy as much of them. So this means you sell out quickly, which means your BSR drops, or not drops, but goes up when you run out of stock. And it also means that you can't spend enough money on marketing, which means you're not going to penetrate the market that deeply, basically making everything less effective. So my advice is if you only have 4K, my advice is not to do it, and wait until you have saved at least 10K. And that 10K is not a budget for a year. That 10K is just to launch a product. Now, if you think that's a lot of money, first of all, I'm not judging you. I understand it's a lot of money. But I would like to remind you that when you do private label, you're not doing a product, you're building a brand. Okay? Selling the product is a desirable end result, but the reason why people buy the product is because of your brand. So you're building a brand, and you're going to you need to spend a lot more money than that 10k in that year to basically have a shot at building your brand. So again, I hope this helped. Okay, another mail question. This question is from Ashley. I've bought a course and there they say that your first product should be a cheap, ready to fail, so that you have gone through the motions. What do you advise? Okay, so your first product needs to be like a cheap, so that if it fails, it doesn't matter. So you learn from your mistakes, right? So that's what I get out of the question. So first off, I don't really understand why they would be selling a course if in the end they tell you to just learn by making the mistakes yourself, as if you'd never bought the course. So basically canceling out the whole reason why you buy a course, which is to learn so that you basically don't make the big mistakes you'll make without doing a course. Now, other than that, if I look at the amount of work involved in doing research, branding, marketing, and the time it takes, then I would advise you to just pick a product which has a good chance of succeeding. Why put in all that work just to have a product that will fail? Okay, it doesn't make sense to me, or has a chance of failing. Do your proper research. What I would tell you or would advise you is that if it's your first product, right, so you've never done private label and you're going to do the first private label thing now, my advice is to start close at home. Don't pick a product that you don't understand or a market you never heard about. Focus on something you already know, right? So if you're a hockey person, try to find something within that hockey niche, okay? Or if you're into rugby or American football, baseball, basketball, quilting, it doesn't even matter what it is. The point is you need to pick something that's close. Why? Because even though software generates data points, you need to have certain market knowledge to put these numbers into context. You need to, otherwise they're just ones and zeros and it doesn't make sense. So you need to understand your market. Now later on, when you have more money, you can spend a lot more time on researching a market. Okay, that can take up to 3 to 6 months just to research a market and finding like how viable that product is within the market and all that kind of stuff. But if you're already familiar with the market or with a specific niche, then a lot of these things are natural to you. You understand, if you're into baseball, you understand what certain handicaps mean. With golf, you understand what certain materials do, if it's wood or aluminium, or you understand the market, and it's important that you need to build from that understanding first. So yeah, that's my advice to you, Ashley. So hope it helps. Now I'm going to type something in the chat here. Okay, one moment. Now, if you have any questions, boom. Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to put them here in the chat and I will try to answer them. I'm also going to check our Facebook group because I know sometimes people ask questions there and I sometimes miss them. I'm pretty busy, sorry. Okay, so I kind of answered this in our group already, but this is a question from Elilta. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Elilta Regasa. Good afternoon. I would like to buy a tool app for products profitability comparison. What are your suggestions, please? Now again, I know that nowadays people try to have an app that does everything for them, but again, it depends on what you want, but do you want to compare certain products with each other and how profitable or how profitable a product can be in the market? Because these are two separate questions. I personally don't know of I don't know a software that does everything all at once, and to be honest, when I'm researching markets and products and profitability, I do a lot of manual work. I just why? Because it's basically the same reason why when I learn something new, I try to write it down by hand. It sticks better. The information sticks in my head, and I get a better understanding of the data. Right? I find that, especially in this Amazon business, a lot of these apps, they don't really work that well. And you never get the full information, or they use the wrong formulas. So personally, if you want to check profitability of a product within that niche you're researching, do it by hand. If you want to compare products, like if you're comparing competitors, again, by hand. You can use a tool like Helium. Helium can do that pretty well, like comparing, but you need to do the work yourself, I think, right? So I hope it helped, and if not, just specify a bit more, and then it can help you a bit better. Okay, scroll a bit down. I don't think there are any more questions, which makes it a very short Sunday for me. No, don't see any questions. So anyway, if there aren't any questions, then I'm going to close off this stream. I do hope you found our information of use to you. If you have any suggestions as to what topic I can cover and maybe a problem you have, please feel free to send me an email, martin@owleads.com, and I will try to incorporate it in next week's webinar. Again, Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so again, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you next week as well, right? Enjoy your weekend. See you next time. Bye bye.